She turned back to Annabeth with a sunny smile. At any rate, you will bear no ill will, my girl. I appreciate the difficulty of your quest, especially when you have troublemakers like Janus to deal with. Why was he trying to drive me crazy like that? Annabeth asked. Oh, you must understand, my dear. Minor gods like Janus have always been frustrated by the small parts they play in the universe. Some of them, I fear, have little love for Olympus, and they can easily be persuaded to support the rise of my father Kronos. We must always keep an eye out for them, like for Janus, Hecate, my brother Hades, and lots of others. They give lip service to Olympus. And yet, that's where Dionysus went. He was checking on them, Percy said. Indeed, Hera said. In times of trouble, even gods can lose faith. They start putting their trust in the wrong hands. They stop looking at the big picture and start being selfish. But I'm the goddess of marriage, you see. You have to rise above the squabbling and chaos and always keep your mind on your goals. What are your goals? Annabeth asked. She smiled. To keep my family, the Olympians, together, of course. The best way I can do that is by helping you. Zeus does not allow me to interfere much, I'm afraid, but once every century or so, for a quest I care deeply about, he allows me to grant a wish. A wish? Before you ask it, let me give you some advice which I can do for free. I know you seek out Daedalus's workshop. It is as much of a mystery to me as it is to you. But if you want to know his fate, I would visit my son Hephaestus at his forge. Daedalus was a great inventor, a mortal after Hephaestus's heart. There has never been a mortal Hephaestus has admired more. If anyone would have kept up with Daedalus and could tell you his fate, it is Hephaestus. But how do we get there? Annabeth asked. That's my wish. I want a way to navigate the labyrinth. Hera looked disappointed. So be it. You wish for something, however, that you have already been given. I don't understand. The means is already within your grasp. She looked at Percy. Percy knows the answer. I do? But that's not fair, Annabeth said. You're not telling us what it is. Getting something and having the wits to use it, those are two different things, Hera said. I'm sure your mother Athena would agree. Then the room rumbled like distant thunder. That would be my cue, said Hera. Zeus grows impatient. Just think on what I have said, Annabeth. Seek out Hephaestus. You will have to pass through the range, I imagine, but keep going and use all the means at your disposal, however common they may seem. She pointed to the doors, and they disappeared, revealing two corridors, both open and dark. One last thing, Annabeth. I have postponed your day of choice, but I have not prevented it. Just as Janus said, you will have to make a decision. Farewell. She waved goodbye and disappeared in another flash of light along with the table and food. Annabeth stomped her foot. What sort of help was that? Here, have a sandwich. Make a wish. Oops, I can't help you. Then poof. Well, Grover said, she did say Percy knows the answer. Then all eyes were on Percy. But I don't, he said. I don't know what she was talking about. Annabeth sighed. All right then, we'll just keep going. Which way? He asked. Left, Grover said. Annabeth frowned. How can you be sure? Because I smell something coming from the right, Grover said. Something big, Tyson said. Left's sounding pretty good, said Percy, and altogether, they were moving on. An hour later, we sat on the parapets of the old fort, watching the sun go down over the New Jersey coastline. I had a cheese sandwich and an ice-cold Ribena from Sadie's extra-dimensional stash of junk food, along with 2 extra-strength Advil, so I was feeling brave enough to hear explanations. Would someone explain what happened back there? I asked. Annabeth slipped her hand into mine. We won, Seaweed Brain? Yeah, but... I gestured at the snow globe, which Carter was now admiring. How? Carter shook the snow globe. Fake snow swirled inside. Maybe it was my imagination, but I swear I could hear Setna shrieking underwater as he was given the blender tour of his tiny prison. I guess the snow globe idea got stuck in my head, Carter said. When I threw the rope and sprung the trap, the magic confirmed to what I was thinking. Anyway, Setna will make a great paperweight. Sadie snorted, almost nostrils spewing her ribena. Poor little Setna, stuck on Carter's desk for eternity, forced to watch him do hours and hours of boring research. I would have been kinder to let a meat devour his soul. I didn't know who a meat was, but I didn't need any more soul-devouring monsters in my life. So the trap worked, I said, which I guess was kind of obvious. I don't need to understand all the details. That's good, Annabeth said, since I don't think any of us do. But one thing I've gotta know. I pointed at Sadie. What did you whisper to Annabeth that turned her into a magician? The girls exchanged a smile. I told Annabeth my secret name, Sadie said. Your what now? I asked. It's called the Wren, Sadie explained. Everyone has one, even if you don't know it. The Wren is, well, the definition of who you are. Once I shared it, Annabeth had access to all my experiences, my abilities, all my general amazingness. That was risky. Carter gave me a grim look. Anyone who knows your Wren can control you. You never share that information unless you really have to, and only with the people you absolutely trust. Sadie found out my secret name last year, and my life has sucked ever since. Oh, please, Sadie said. I only use my knowledge for good. Carter suddenly slapped himself in the face. Hey, he complained. Oops, sorry, Sadie said. At any rate, I do trust Annabeth. I knew it would take both of us to create that containment circle. Besides, a Greek demigod casting Egyptian magic, did you see the look on Setna's face? Priceless. My mouth went dry. I imagined Annabeth invoking hieroglyphs at Camp Half-Blood, blowing up chariots on the racetrack, hurling giant blue fists during Capture the Flag. So my girlfriend is a magician now, like, permanently? Because she was scary enough before. Annabeth laughed. Don't worry, Seaweed Brain. The effect of learning Sadie's Wren is already wearing off. I'll never be able to do any magic on my own. I breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, so, last question. I nodded to the crown of Ptolemy, which sat on the parapet next to Sadie. It looked like part of a Halloween costume, not the sort of headgear that could violently rip the world apart. What do we do with that? Well, Sadie said, I could put it on and see what happens. No, no! Carter and Annabeth yelled. Kidding, Sadie said. Honestly, you two, calm down. I must admit, though, I don't see why Wadjet and Neckbed didn't reclaim their crowns. The goddesses were freed, weren't they? Yeah, I said. I sensed that Cobra Lady Wadjet get expelled when Setna was puking rainbows. Then Neckbed went back too, wherever goddesses go when they're not annoying mortals. Carter scratched his bandaged head. So they just forgot their crowns? Traces of Neckbed's personality lingered in the corners of my mind, just enough to make me feel uncomfortably sure that the crown of Ptolemy had been left here on purpose. It's a test, I said. The two ladies want to see what we'll do with it. When Neckbed learned that I turned down immortality before, she was kind of offended. I think she's curious to find out if any of us will go for it. Annabeth blinked. Neckbed would do that out of curiosity? Even if it caused a world-destroying event? Sounds like Neckbed. Sadie said. She's a malicious old bird. Loves to watch us mortals squabble and kill each other. Carter stared at the crown. But we know better than to use that thing, don't we? His voice sounded a little wistful. For once, you're right, brother dear, Sadie said. As much as I'd love to be a literal goddess, I suppose I'll have to remain a figurative one. I'm gonna puke rainbows now, Carter said. So what do we do with the crown? Annabeth asked. It's not the kind of thing we should leave at the Governor's Island lost and found. Hey Carter, I said. After we defeated that crocodile monster on Long Island, you said you had a safe place to keep its necklace. Could you store the crown too? The Canes had a silent conversation with each other. I suppose we could bring the crown to the first gnome in Egypt, Carter said. Our Uncle Amos is in charge there. He has the most secure magic vaults in the world, but nothing is 100% safe. Senna's experiments with Greek and Egyptian magic sent tremors through the Duat. Gods and magicians felt them. I'm sure demigods felt them too. That kind of power is tempting. Even if we lock the crown away, others might try hybrid magic, Annabeth said. And the more it's tried, Sadie said, the more damage could be done in the Duat in the mortal world, and our sanity. We sat in silence as the idea sank in. I imagined what would happen if the kids in the Hecate cabin back at Camp Half-Blood heard about the magicians in Brooklyn. Or if Clarice from the Ares cabin learned how to summon a giant wild boar combat avatar. I shuddered. We'll have to keep our worlds separate as much as possible. The info is too dangerous. Annabeth nodded. You're right. I don't like keeping secrets, but we'll have to be careful with who we talk to. Maybe we can tell Chiron, but I bet Chiron already knows about the Egyptians, I said. He's a willy old centaur, but yeah, we'll have to keep our little task force here on the down low. Our little task force? Carter grinned. I like the sound of that. The four of us can keep in touch. We'll have to stand ready in case something like this happens again. Annabeth has my number, Sadie said, which, honestly, brother, is a much easier solution than writing invisible hieroglyphs on your friend's hand. What were you thinking? It made sense at the time, Carter protested. We cleaned up our picnic stuff and got ready to go our separate ways. Carter carefully wrapped the crown of Ptolemy in linen cloth. Sadie gave the Governor's Island snow globe a good shake, then stuffed it in her backpack. The girls hugged. I shook Carter's hand. With a twinge of pain, I realized how much I was going to miss these kids. I was getting tired of making new friends only to tell them goodbye, especially since some of them never came back. Take care of yourself, Carter, I said. No more getting roasted in explosions. He smirked. I can't promise. But call us if you need us, okay? And, thanks. Hey, it was a team effort. I guess. But Percy, it came down to you being a good person. Senna couldn't get a handle on you. Honestly, if I'd been tempted with godhood the way you were, you would have done the same thing, I said. Maybe. He smiled, but he didn't look too convinced. Okay, Sadie, time to fly. The initiates at Brooklyn House are gonna be worried. And Khufu is making jello fruit salad for dinner, she said. Should be delicious. Toodaloo, demigods. The Canes turned into birds of prey and launched themselves into the sunset. This has been a weird day, I told Annabeth. She slipped her hand into mine. I'm thinking cheeseburgers for dinner at P.J. Clark's. With bacon, I said. We've earned it. I love the way you think, she said. And I'm glad you're not a god. She kissed me, and I decided that I was glad too. A kiss in the sunset, and the promise of a good bacon cheeseburger? With that kind of payoff, who needs immortality?